And how to calculate the bed shear? Actually, that is more important. So first, let us see. Let us consider rest will cause the bed particle to roll. So that is how the material will be starting moving. This is for an ideal situation where the surface is smooth and the particle is round. Now let us consider the actual case, the physical situation where you have a
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
అదే సార్ ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ ఇప్పటిదాకా రాలేదు, ఇప్పుడే వచ్చింది సార్.
ఏదేది
ఏం లేదు సార్, ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ ఇప్పటిదాకా రాలేదు, ఇప్పుడు ఎనేబుల్ అయింది సార్.
ఓకే 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 రైట్. అంటే సమ్ డిలే ఉందన్నమాట. ఓకే ఓకే. ఇప్పుడు ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ వచ్చింది కదా.
ఎస్ సార్.
ఓకే. సో so when you consider a natural bed means it is an erodible bed. So and the particles which are not perfectly round, they are granular. So if you consider such a case, see this is the bed and these are the particles, and this figure is enlarged and shown here. So these are the particles. So out of these particles, there will be one particle which will be a predominant particle, because the arrangement will be in such a way that one particle will be projecting to a higher level with respect to the average bed level. Now, if you consider the velocity distribution, now if you recall your AFM concepts, the velocity will be varying 0 to certain maximum value. Now, when you consider the bed to be either smooth or rough, the flow is always turbulent. Now, in case of laminar flow and in case of ideal flow, I mean ideal fluid flow, the bed will be not moving, so the velocity will be 0 at y is equal to 0. But in practice, we have seen that the velocity will not be 0 at the bed, but it will be 0 at certain small height above the bed. So there is a distance from this bottom average height of these projections to a level where the velocity will be 0. So this distance is indicated as y, or in our case here, in this case, we will refer it as Z0. So Z0 is the distance from the average bed level to the point where the velocity will be exactly 0. So this will be the actual velocity distribution. And here there will be a shear stress, because this is velocity is 0 here and there is a velocity gradient. So as a result of this velocity gradient, tau is equal to mu dV by dy. So there will be a shear stress that is developed as shown here. So this causes the shear force and shear stresses. Now, when this applied force, you are applying a force on a particle. This is a force on a particle. So what are the forces acting on this prominent grain? The forces acting on this grain are, one is the self weight, the other is the drag force, and the third one is the lift force. So drag force and lift force are due to the fluid movement, the flow. So whenever there is an object placed in a flow field, there will be a drag force and also a lift force. In last semester, you have seen that in case of a circular cylinder or a sphere, the combination of uniform flow and vortex will give you a lift force. The streamlines on the upper part will be away or at larger distance, and here they will be at shorter distance, smaller distance. So therefore, the velocity, this will cause a suction at the top. This will cause a suction at the top, and high pressure here, low pressure here. So there will be a lift force. So this you have seen. So the same phenomena will occur here also. Whenever a body is in the field of a fluid, it is subjected to drag force and lift force. And because of its presence in a fluid, it will be having a weight. Now the only difference between ordinary weight and this weight is that because this prominent object, prominent grain is submerged in fluid, so it will be subjected to an immersed weight, not the full weight. So therefore, the forces acting on this particle are drag force, lift force, and the immersed weight. So at the interface, the shear stress of the moving fluid causes the particle movement. So at this interface, the shear stress that is developed here will cause the particle to move only if the shear stress is greater than a certain value. If it is less than a certain value, there will not be any movement. 1 minute. So this situation where the fluid starts moving is called as a threshold of motion. That is the critical stage. So when you consider the shear stress here, which I have shown here as tau naught, the shear stress is due to three particular aspects. The shear stress is due to skin friction or the grain related friction. See, here there is a skin friction just due to grains. Then second part is due to form drag resulting from the ripple or dune formation. There will be certain bed formation which are called as ripples and dunes. I will show what ripple is, what dune are. So due to their presence, they will cause additional shear stress. Then, the total shear stress is due to these three factors. One is due to this grains, individual grains, and the other is due to the formation, and the third is due to the sediment transport contribution caused by momentum transfer to mobilize the grains. So actually, if again I go back to this figure, so the shear stress tau naught which you are seeing here is, will comprise of three parts. One due to the individual grain, second due to the packing or the ripples or the dunes, and third is the momentum transfer of the moving particles. So these three put together, they will constitute this so-called tau naught. So hence the total bed shear can be written as this. But we don't discuss anything on these three. Ultimately, this is what we are interested. So we must know this is the one, tau naught. So what is the general expression for tau naught? Tau naught is shear stress. So shear stress means it is related to the force. Now what is the force here? Force in this direction, what is that force? Fd. Fd is the force, drag force. So how do you get the drag force? Drag force is given by so drag force, if I call the drag force as Fd, CD rho A U square so this is the drag force. Now what is this stress? If I want to calculate the stress, stress is equal to at the bed. So this is equal to, how do you get stress from force? Force divided by
area.
area. So tau naught can be written as CD rho U square by 2. So tau is proportional to CD rho U square. Actually here so this U bar is a depth average velocity. U bar is a depth average velocity. Now you know already that we can express the velocity, shear velocity, as square root of tau naught by rho. So if you look at this expression, if you divide this by rho, so this rho and this rho will get cancelled. So if I take square root, so if I take square root, so this will be having dimensions of u because CD is dimensionless. So this is a velocity term. So this is called as the shear velocity. So so we have the shear stress is proportional to the square of the particle diameter. So d square. Now let us consider the vertical direction. In vertical direction, the force is self-weight. So that is equal to, what is the weight? It is the immersed weight. So there will be here, if suppose you consider this particle will be having a downward force which is equal to the immersed weight. Now this immersed weight must be balanced by the okay, this is the immersed weight. So as a result of this immersed weight, this is the shear stress you are having. So there will be a resistance due to the submerged weight. So what is that resistance? That resistance is always equal to, what is the tangential force whenever there is a normal force down? Normally it is 0. See, if you consider any force acting downwards, its normal component is 0. But due to friction, the frictional force is equal to the vertical force multiplied by tan phi. If the weight of any object is W, so the friction offered is W tan phi. So here, what is the weight? The weight is immersed weight. So immersed weight multiplied by tan phi is the resistance. So the shear stress is acting tau naught and the resistance is W dash tan phi. So this is the one which we look at. So the resistance due to submerged weight, which is W dash, is equal to W dash tan phi of the grains. So W dash is, now what is W dash? W dash is the weight. Weight is mass into volume, density into volume. So density into volume into G. So density into volume into G. So here density is rho s minus rho because it is submerged. That multiplied by G will give you the specific weight. That multiplied by pi d cubed by 6 will give you this is volume and this is density, submerged density. So submerged density multiplied by volume will give you mass, submerged mass. So that multiplied by G will give you weight. So that weight is W dash. So that multiplied by tan phi is your resistance. So the number of prominent grains in a given surface area is related to the areal grain packing. That is area of the grains divided by total area. Number of grains is equal to area of each grain divided by total area. It is proportional to. So the area of the particle is d square. If it is a sphere or a circle, it is d square, pi d square. But any shape, we can say that it is a parameter proportional to square of the diameter. So the area is always written as proportional to d square. So therefore, the number of particles number of exposed grains is equal to total area divided by area of each particle. So it is a function of AP is the total area, AP is the total area, and D square is area of each grain. So total area by area of grains will give you, actually this is the other way. This is in the denominator. This is in the numerator. Total area by area of each grain. So the stress at the interface tau naught, now the shear stress is equal to what? It is the sum of the horizontal forces acting. So what are these horizontal forces acting? The total force on each prominent grain in unit area may be expressed as F. So FD is proportional to tau naught A. So we have established that FD is proportional to tau naught into D square by AP. Now, when the particles are at the juncture of movement, that is at the threshold of movement, this shear stress acting is referred as a critical shear stress, tau critical. So, calling that at that condition tau critical into D squared by AP, that is the force when the particle horizontal force in the horizontal direction, when it is at the edge of movement. So that must be equal to the resistance force. What is the resistance force we have seen earlier? The resistance force is this one. This one. W dash tan phi, where W dash is this. So the so-called force in the horizontal direction must be equal to or equal to this part, equal to this one. So that is what we write here. So this is the horizontal force due to fluid movement, and this is the force, resistance force. So these, they are proportionality, only proportionality we are writing. So these this equation is rewritten so as to get in a dimensionless form. Tau naught by rho. Okay. Now 1 minute. Now, this is what I said is it is a dimensionless form. How you can say? The left hand side, I am saying that it is a dimensionless relationship. Can you justify? Anyone?
No unit, sir.
Okay, I will explain. Just now we have seen here what is this? I told you just now that this is u star is a velocity, shear velocity. It is square root of tau naught by rho. So, square root of tau naught by rho will have the dimensions of velocity. Have you followed this point? Square root of tau naught by rho will have the dimensions of velocity. So, what will be the dimensions of tau naught by rho? The dimensions of tau naught by rho will be tau naught by rho will have the dimensions of velocity square, because square root of tau naught by rho will have velocity dimensions. So, tau naught by rho will have velocity square dimensions. So, if you look at this, this is shear stress divided by rho. So, this part will have the dimensions of square of the velocity, right? Have you followed? So, this total thing, therefore, the total thing will therefore will be v square divided by so this entire thing will have this entire thing will have v square by gd. Now substitute the dimensions for v square. And substitute the dimensions for gd. 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute, 1 minute. Velocity is Lt minus 1. So it will be L square T minus 2. G is acceleration. Acceleration is Lt minus 2. D is L. So therefore, this is dimensionless. Have you all followed? Is it clear? Okay. So tau CR, the critical shear stress divided by submerged density multiplied by GD is proportional to some factor pi AP by 6 tan phi. So this one, the left hand side, which is a dimensionless one, is referred as an entrainment parameter, entrainment function, which is called Sheets parameter, and is indicated by the symbol tau. Ah, 1 minute. Usna. Okay, I'm back. We'll continue the class for some time, maybe another half an hour maximum, so that I can complete this part. Whatever we missed the other day. Okay. So this left hand side, which is so this left hand side is referred as the entrainment function or Shields parameter psi. So in general, considering tau, so tau divided by submerged density multiplied by GD is Shields parameter. So when we replace tau by critical velocity, critical value of tau, it is called as Shields critical parameter or critical Shields parameter. So this suggests that the critical entrainment function, if you look at this is a constant. AP is the area and phi is the angle of repose. So this value of critical entrainment function, it is proportional to this. So therefore it must be a constant. So for a given bed, it will not depend upon the flow parameters. It will depend only upon the bed characteristics. That is the way in which the grains are packed in a given area, in a certain area, and the angle of repose, angle of internal friction or angle of repose. So for each and every site or location, there will be a certain value of critical value of psi. Now the actual value of psi, the shear stress which is developed as a result of the flow, if it is higher than psi critical, then it will lead to displacement, movement. So that is what we will see now. The same thing what I have explained there, it is shown here. So on a flat bed, if the bed screen friction shear stress tau naught is known, suppose we assume that it is known, then the value of Shields parameter psi can be calculated and used to determine the regime of the sediment transport as follows. ఈ బుక్స్ ఏం లేవా కొన్ని అక్కడ ఉండిపోయాము కాలేజీలో మరి okay. So if psi s, that is the bed shear stress, it is the Shields parameter as calculated using the existing value of shear stress. If it is less than a critical value, then no transport will occur. On the other hand, if the critical value is less than psi s, which is less than or equal to 0.8, so then the transport will occur with ripples and dunes. If the psi s is greater than 0.8, then the transport will occur as sheet flow with a flat bed. Now, if the shear velocity u star near the bed is less than or equal to the particle fall velocity, so the shear velocity is less than the particle velocity, particle fall velocity, then there will not be any suspended sediment. If the shear velocity is greater than the fall velocity, then the suspended sediment transport will occur. So if I give you the data for the calculation of U star or for the calculation of psi, you will be able to know the regime of the flow. So when psi is greater than 0.03, there is a likelihood that the sand grains will move. So that is the critical value of psi. Psi critical is 0.03 for sand grain, sand. So here gamma is equal to rho g and SS is rho s by rho. That is not, we have not taken that here. Okay. If psi exceeds the value of 0.1, then it is almost certain that the bed is moving. So psi is greater than 0.03, there is a likelihood of sand grains movement, and if it is greater than 0.1, then the entire bed will be moving. For values of psi exceeding the incipient motion criteria, different bed forms may result. Now, what are they? For example, for Reynolds number less than 10, ripples will form on the bed. Whereas, for the approximate range, 10 less than RE less than 100, the dunes will exist. And for larger values of Reynolds number, the bed is flat but moving in sheet flow, which is a flat blanket of moving sand. So, according to one criterion, Nielsen pointed out if psi is greater than 0.83, then sheet flow will occur. So, these are the various possible ways in which the bed will be moving. Now, here I referred about ripples and dunes. So, what is a ripple? What is a dune are shown here. See, ripple is a continuous line with small deposition of sand. It is just like similar to your lines drawn. Suppose you draw lines with sand to a small height with some breaks in between. But on the whole, it will appear like a continuous line. And on the other hand, dunes are those where you will see almost the entire area is occupied by small heaps or mounds of sand. So it is in a three-dimensional pattern. So that is a dune. So that is the difference between a dune and a ripple. So, as per the Shields criteria, we know that there is a parameter which enables us to decide whether the movement will take place or not. So, based on this, following Shields' work, various bed load transport equations have been developed. Now, one point you have to remember is that whatever is the equation, you will have a shear stress in that equation. And if you want to apply the equation, you should be in a position to calculate the shear stress. So our next step is how to calculate the bed shear stress. So that we will consider later. So a bed load dimensionless parameter, bed load transport rate, that is defined as phi, is equal to QB divided by G S minus 1 d to the power of 3 under root. So this is QB is volumetric bed load transport rate per unit width having the dimensions or units of meter cube per minute per second. So this will be having this is meter cube, that is L cube per L per T. So this will be that is L squared by so this numerator will have L squared by T. So the denominator also has the same thing. See, this is if you take G will have dimensions of or I can write this as L squared. 1 minute. Now coming here, G will have dimensions of LT minus 2. S is dimensionless. D cubed will have L cubed and so L square L into L cube will be L to the power of 4 T to the power of minus 2 and when you so this is L square T minus 1. So this is therefore so this is a dimensionless parameter. So this is one formula. So if we know the bed load transport rate, then I can calculate so if you know the value of phi, if you know the value of phi by one means or the other, you can calculate QB, the bed load transport rate. So several investigators have developed a relationship between the so-called phi and psi. You see? So this is one formula. So if you know your value of psi S and psi critical, so you can calculate phi, and using this phi, you can calculate the bed load transport rate. Or you can use this formula. So using one of these formulae, you can calculate phi, and using that phi, you can calculate your bed load transport rate. So that is how the bed load transport rate can be evaluated or arrived using the Shields criterion. Now this is when I say current. Now if suppose only waves are there, what is the difference? The difference is only in the calculation of this so-called psi, which involves your tau. So if it is only current, you use current induced shear stress. If it is wave, then you use for tau naught the wave induced shear stress. If it is combination of wave and current, you substitute the wave and current induced shear stress. So the ultimate thing is now to calculate the bed shear stress, tau. So if we calculate the bed shear stress, automatically we can calculate all these things. So our next point of discussion will be on how to arrive at the bed shear stress. So this is what I have been telling. So if it is wave, then use the value of shear stress due to wave. If it is wave and current, use the same equations, these equations. Only thing is in that expression for shear stress in psi, you use the appropriate shear stress. So therefore, we will proceed for the calculation of bed shear. So tomorrow we will continue on this aspect. So bed shear calculations. Now going back to our syllabus, I think somewhere I have written.